What's up and hey there, thank you for clicking on this video. Today we're going over Exodus chapter 3 and we're finding a little bit of godly comedy. You know God has a sense of humor. I mean look, the duck-billed platypus exists. And as gross as it is, well, flatulations. I mean for the first 20 years of life, for any sane person, those are funny. And they're generally funny even into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. But enough about fart jokes, let's get to Exodus chapter 3. Now, I don't want what I'm about to say to be misunderstood. God, in fact, is God. He is awesome, He's big, He's majestic, and He is to be respected. You see, the Lord, He comes in a whirlwind, in an earthquake, in famine, pestilence, sword, in the 10 plagues against Egypt. He is a judge. And He does render judgment both on the righteous and the wicked, because He's a good Father like that. But He also comes in the form of 3 men, friends, coming to visit Abraham, before He tells us that He considers Abraham His friend. I want to shift our focus from that big, awesome, godly part of God to a relationship part of Him that we can more easily relate to. Not because I'm trying to twist anything, but because there is a part of His character that we can more easily relate to. It's just the truth that that also is part of Him. Not only is He God, Commander-in-Chief, and awesome warrior, but He is also a friend. He's also a servant. He's a father. He's a brother. When we look at Him as a friend, as a brother, as the other part, the other half of a marriage relationship, with us being the bride and Him being the husband, well, a little bit less like the God figure and a little bit more like the other half of a marriage relationship, He requires some attention. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. In this video we're going to focus on that word, the back, which in Hebrew is achar. We'll get to that in just a second. So here's a map of the actual Mount Sinai. There's some controversy over which mountain is Mount Sinai. This is most likely the Mount Sinai, a close-up of it. And then let's back up a little bit here, and now this is about where Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia. And now let's back up a little bit even more, and here we have Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and north of there is Israel. That should give you a little bit of context as to where this is. Now let's go and look back at that map of the desert that Moses was traveling in. It says that he came to the back part, achar. Achar is an adverb in this particular circumstance, and it means the hind or following part. Free Bible study. If the words free Bible study are music to your ears, check out my free Bible study. I made it for you. It is completely free of charge if you've got a printer. www.gleaningthescriptures.com. You can go there right now and download your free copy of a Bible study on Leviticus. Soon I will be making a Bible study on the book of Job, and there are many more on the way. In this free Bible study, we ask questions that get you thinking. Questions like, have animal sacrifices saved anybody? Ever? Go to the Gleaning the Scriptures website and enjoy
your free copy of The Holiest Place on Earth today.
The first time that a char arrives in Scripture is Genesis chapter 9, verse 28, talking about Noah. And Noah lived after the flood. I believe it's 350 years. And Noah lived after the flood. That word after is a char. And Noah lived a char the flood, behind or following part. And in most circumstances, a char is translated as after. You go through the flood, and then behind the flood, we have all these years of Noah. That is generally the way this is described. But here we're talking about an actual thing, a place, the desert. And Moses, for whatever reason, in his wisdom, the wisdom that was kicked out of Egypt and sent to another desert, a lonely desert, a desert where nobody was. He was a char. He was behind the desert. He had led his flock through that desert, and he was in the hinder parts of the desert, and it's here where he found God. All right, so why is this important? How is there a joke here? Well, look at the circumstances. We have all these people all around the world, and the Father, he's not getting very much attention at this point. His people had been enslaved by Egypt, and all of their time is consumed by doing the works of Egypt. They're not doing any of God's works. They know that he exists. They're very much aware of his existence, but it's kind of like an ancient story way back in the ancestral heritage, and probably isn't going to be something that they're ever going to experience themselves. God is a friend. God is the other half of the marriage. And here he is. You have to go through a desert, get to the back part of the desert, and there he is, as a bush. A burning bush. Okay, so that's going to catch some attention, and I believe he presented himself as this burning bush because he needed to get Moses' attention, and today, still today, it gets our attention. Let's take the wow factor out of this circumstance, and let's make it not a burning bush. Oh, okay. Here we have a creosote plant, a bush that survives out in the desert. There it is. Now think about how much care you give to your spouse. Now think about how much care you give to the bush out in your front or backyard. Do you see the difference? Do you see how comical it is? God is reaching out to us and telling us, what am I? A bush? Come on, I need more attention than that. Sometimes God really is a goofball, and I love him for it. In this bit of comedy, we learn that the Father does need more attention than you would give to a bush. And even a burning bush. God needs a whole lot of attention all the time. That's what he requires of us. We were made to serve God with all of our heart, with all of our strength, and with all of our mind. The question is, are you serving Egypt, or are you serving God? He's not a bush, my friends. He's a husband. Care for him. Love him. Lay down your life for him. And be blessed today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day. And when you are achar your life, you can look back at it, and you have nothing to be ashamed of. Because you walked rightly, blamelessly, and upright before the Lord.